On a warm summer night in 1963, a Royal Mail train carrying millions in cash was moving quietly through the English countryside. No guards, no weapons, just a crew expecting a routine journey from Glasgow to London. But what happened next would stun the nation. By morning, £2.6 million, equivalent to over $70 million today, had vanished. No guns were fired, no one saw a thing, and the group responsible had planned every detail like a military operation. This wasn't just a robbery, it was the crime of the century. And yet, what brought them down wasn't a high-speed chase or a brilliant detective, but a game of Monopoly. The target was the Royal Mail Travelling Post Office, TPO, a train that operated overnight from Glasgow to London. Its job was to carry and sort mail, including registered packages and sealed sacks full of cash. On August 7, 1963, it left Glasgow Central Station at 6:50 p.m., hauling 12 carriages and crew, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. Aboard the train that night were 72 postal workers and several tons of mail, but the true cargo of interest was £2.6 million in used banknotes. That night's load was unusually high due to a bank holiday weekend in Scotland. The criminals knew this. They'd been watching the train for months. The operation was led by Bruce Reynolds, a career criminal known for his charm, intellect, and meticulous planning. With help from fellow mastermind Buster Edwards and muscle from men like Charlie Wilson and Ronnie Biggs, Reynolds assembled a crew of 15 men, each with a specific skill. They rented a farmhouse called Leatherslade Farm in rural Buckinghamshire, not far from the train's route, and turned it into their hideout. Using inside information from a retired train driver, the gang learned how to manipulate the signals and stop the train without raising alarm. They even practiced uncoupling train cars on a remote track weeks prior. This wasn't a smash and grab. This was a coordinated military-style operation. At 3:03 a.m. on August 8th, the crew set their plan in motion. Near Brideygo Bridge, they rigged a false red signal using a battery-powered device. As expected, the train came to a halt. Two masked men climbed into the locomotive and incapacitated the driver, Jack Mills, striking him on the head with an iron bar. Though Mills survived, he would suffer from his injuries for the rest of his life. The crew quickly uncoupled the engine and the front two cars, one of which contained the money. The gang then forced the replacement driver, Ronnie Biggs's contact who lacked enough experience, to move the shortened train to a nearby bridge. There they formed a human chain and unloaded 121 sacks of cash into waiting trucks, all in under 30 minutes. No shots were fired, no alarms were triggered. By 4:30 a.m., the criminals had vanished into the countryside. The gang returned to Leatherslade Farm, where they planned to lay low for a few weeks until the heat died down. They divided the money, each member receiving roughly £150,000, about £3 million today. Inside the farmhouse, they burned clothes, wiped down surfaces, and tried to destroy any evidence. But despite the careful planning, they made one crucial mistake. They got bored. To pass the time, they played Monopoly, using real money from the heist instead of paper cash. Fingerprints were left on the board, playing cards, bottles, and dishes. After they fled, police found the farm and the evidence that would lead to their arrests. The British press exploded with headlines. The public was stunned. The idea that a group of civilians could rob a government train in the dead of night without being caught was unthinkable. Scotland Yard launched one of the largest investigations in UK history. Within weeks, suspects began to fall. By the end of 1964, 11 of the 15 men were caught and brought to trial. They received record-breaking sentences. Bruce Reynolds got 25 years, Charlie Wilson 30 years, and Buster Edwards 15 years. But one story would dominate the headlines: Ronnie Biggs. In 1965, just a year into his 30-year sentence, Biggs escaped Wandsworth Prison, using a rope ladder thrown over the wall by accomplices. He fled to France, then to Australia, and eventually to Brazil, where he lived openly for over 3 decades. Biggs became a celebrity fugitive. He gave interviews, posed for photos, and even recorded a song with the punk band the Sex Pistols. British authorities tried to extradite him, but Brazil refused due to his fathering a child with a Brazilian citizen. It wasn't until 2001, sick and aging, that Biggs voluntarily returned to the UK, where he was re-imprisoned and later released on compassionate grounds in 2009. Despite the arrests, the bulk of the $2.6 million was never recovered. Most of it vanished into the underground economy, hidden away or laundered over time. Some families of the robbers lived lavishly in the years that followed. Rumors persist of stashed banknotes buried in the countryside, but none have ever been confirmed. The Great Train Robbery wasn't just a crime, it was a cultural phenomenon. Books, documentaries, and films, including a 1978 dramatization starring Phil Collins, kept the tale alive for decades. It became a symbol of British rebellion, daring, and cleverness, despite the violence involved. But it also left a trail of pain. Jack Mills never fully recovered. Several robbers died in prison, and Biggs, once the poster boy of the heist, spent his final years frail and forgotten. The Great Train Robbery remains one of the boldest crimes in modern history, not because of the amount stolen, but because of how meticulously it was planned, how successfully it was executed, and how human error ultimately led to its unraveling. No alarms, no bullets, just a plan, a train, and a game of Monopoly. And even today, we're still wondering, what if they had just left the board game behind?